last laps or minutes of the race. It's time for revenge with Piana, who's just right next to you.
Yeah, I think yeah, we're looking for redemption today for sure. Definitely could have got a better result yesterday, but things just didn't quite go our way. So yeah, looking to put it right today.
Thanks. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Good to hear from Mackenzie as he gets ready to go. Plenty of drama, plenty of fireworks last night. The race was maybe slow to get into its rhythm, but we were rewarded with a great run to the checkered flag, Joe.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. And those fireworks were ignited really with Cresswell and Piana, wasn't it, at the last corner? And Piana did get a penalty for it. So Cresswell feeling aggrieved. That was a podium that was robbed from him potentially last night.
Even more of the protagonists standing by to chat with us, and Alex is standing by now with Gregory Gilvert.
Greg, you and Paul, you performed what I would call a masterclass in strategy, and it really paid off. How much confidence does that give you into today's race?
Yeah, to be honest, we need to score points. We missed some points from the two first races, so now we need to focus to the title. So yeah, I need to do my best, Paul too, and yeah, we need to build now our championship because we are here.
When you look around, who's in front of you, what do you feel Paul can do into that first corner?
Yeah, it's something always special. La Source, the corner of La Source, you know, you are maximum pace maybe 180 kilometers and from 60k, so always something happens. So you need, we are in a good place for it. It's really good. So yeah, Paul did a really good quali. So yeah, I think nothing will happen.
Elbows one, keep out of mischief, right?
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Big day for them in the points, as he alluded to. Championship leaders, Benjamin Lariche and Robert Cansani, extended their points lead, finishing second. But second and third in the points in that class had troubles yesterday. Marco Signoretti and Eric Evans, as well as John Duran and Adrian David, had some mishaps yesterday. So that opens things up. And as we approach the halfway mark in the season, everyone's keeping an eye on those point standings.
Yeah, definitely. And both of those cars had damage as well. So those teams would have had late nights last night repairing the Mustang and the Supra, respectively.
It was a late night to begin with, just with the nature of the schedule. Well, we talked a little bit about some of the drama in race number one. We heard from one end of the spectrum. Let's go to the other. Gabriele Piana with Ganel.
Gabriele starting from first row. It seems that you're going to be fighting again with your friend from McLaren, number 78, as you did yesterday.
It's not my friend. I don't know him. I never met him. But yeah, it looks like it will be like that. I'm a bit disappointed from yesterday. I think that was not the right call from race control. But it's in the past. We cannot fix it. So we focus on this race, and I will do my best. Hopefully it stays clean, and maybe today we can finally celebrate.
Have a good race. Thank you.
Gabriele Piana has been outspoken for the last 24 hours, 12 hours, whatever it's been since race number one. He did not agree with that penalty, but he's quite right. Whether or not you agree with it, you have to abide by it and put it behind you.
Yeah, great question from Ganel there. I think the friendship part was because of the contact they had. So, yeah, and Piana not agreeing with race control, and at the time I would side with him. It was a penalty given. I thought it was a racing incident, but that 10 seconds took that win away from them that they had on the road effectively.
Chance to hear from some more friends down on the grid. Everyone friendly on this grid, of course. And Alex is down with our next interviewee.
Steph, you boys had such a tricky day yesterday. Talk us through it. What happened?
Yeah, I had a problem with the alternator cable because we have
Tanvika collection. Malabar Gold and Diamonds.
And I lost completely the power as soon as I arrived at the first corner. I shift down and I lost completely power. the steering, everything, and I just tried to put the car outside because I had 40 cars in the back of me, and yeah, I got really scared, but I was able to go down outside and nobody crashed into me, and so now we solved the problem, we protected the cables, and in this moment, I think it is okay.
Oh my word, fingers crossed then. All right, well, fingers crossed that today is a better day for you guys.
Thank you. Bye.
Stefano D'Aste, Lotus PB Racing, Kari shares with Alberto Nasca, will roll off in the 5th starting position. How about that piece of eye candy down on the grid? Gotta love that.
Yeah, the Maserati MC Extrema. Track-only car, 62 of them made. The colours paying homage to the Vita for One MC12. That was such an iconic car around here as well. So lovely to see it. And Maserati really supporting all the SRO series with leading cars, safety cars, and medical cars here at the Spa 24, powered by CrowdStrike.
Saw the car that it was based off of running in the historic events last year. It was my first chance to ever see one of those run in person. More importantly, to hear one of those run in person. It makes an impact.
Yeah, exactly. It's good to see in the modern world of automotive, there's still some outliers sticking to what we really want to see.
And here, most importantly, perhaps, such a big part of the motorsport experience. Well, here at Spa, Joe, we need to talk about the track. It's as much of the story as the drivers and cars that we'll take to it. This place has so much history, so much challenge. Yes, the place has been altered somewhat in recent years, but the mystique of it remains.
Yeah, it really is. I think if you were to ask drivers as a straw poll in Europe what their favourite track is, this is going to be mentioned 70 to 80% of the time, and the other 20-25% will be their local track. Spa is being built in the best part of the world for a racetrack. It goes up, it goes down. Every corner has a nuance to it. There isn't an easy corner, and there's plenty of overtaking alike, and 7 kilometers of it, so it's one of the longer laps we go to as well.
Is there a section of the track that you particularly enjoyed in your driving days?
All of it's fun, but Pouhon for me, turn 10, it falls away down the hill. It's a double left, so you can be a hero at the first apex and then mess up the second one. Vice versa, you can get both wrong. You sometimes get both right, not me personally, but I have seen it done. But yeah, and a high-speed corner with many incidents. We saw 2 Porsches go off there in qualifying on exit.
I have to say we're blessed with a lot of great racetracks in the States where I come from. Pirelli GT4 America, the American equivalent to this championship, goes to many of them, but there's no place quite like this one. This is tops of my list. Always a thrill to be here, and I can't imagine the thrill for the drivers who are set to take part in this, the second race of the weekend for GT4 European Series, powered by the RAFA Racing Club. And the cars start to roll away, which means now we are closing in on the start of this race, which at the conclusion means we will have reached the halfway mark in this 2025 season. Amazing to think that already nearly half the season is out the rearview mirror. And as ever with GT4 Racing, what a great mix of manufacturers on the grid. The buy-in from the OEMs has been outstanding over the years as GT4 has continued to grow, and when you have brands like McLaren and Porsche and BMW joined by the Ford Mustangs, of course, and so many others, that's one of the things that makes GT4 Racing so appealing.
Yeah, 10 manufacturers represented across this 44-car grid.
And here's how they'll line up. It's Mackenzie Cresswell on the pole position, silver class pole sitter as well, alongside Gabriele Piana. Those two made an acquaintance with one another a day ago. Callum Davies set to start in the 3rd spot next to Paul Petit in the team speed car Audi. Pedro Ibrahim for Marusan Automotive Motorsport, and Alberto Nasca, the pole sitter in the Pro-Am class, starts in the 6th spot. Hopefully they can stave off the mechanical issues in the Lotus. Marco Signoretti for the Ford Academy Motorsport team next to Ethan Chialdini, starting in row number 4. Then we get to the 5th row. Jan Duran, Matmut Evolution, the team Toyota Supra, the car. Benjamin Lassant for L'Espace Bienvenue will line up in the 5th row. Michael Haverens starting in the 11th spot. Hans Holmans starting in 12th. Into the 7th row, Clement Seller and Robert Consani for Team Speed Car in the 7th row of this grid. Thibaut Mojica and Max Kronberg will line up in the 8th position. Kronberg on the M-Class pole. Then it's Joachim Bolting and Cindy Goudet starting in the 9th row. Bas Visser set to start in 19th. Joachim Valde starting in the 10th row, 20th position. Ruben Del Sart's 21st. Zach Meekin rolling off 22nd. Then you find Alex Papadopoulos in the Mercedes starting 23rd next to Matt Travis, the American. Richard Wolff from Austria will start 25th. David Kuhlmann starting in 26th. Mark Kastelec and Nico Ferrarin in the 14th row. Pierre Livingstone and Mikel Laboda in row 15. All the way back to 31st is where you find Paolo Maloney, Matteo Numbla in the 16th row. Tobias Erdmann and Lucas Sugliano starting in the 17th row. Tudor Tudoraci and Jean-Mathieu Leandri in row 18. Row 19 to Alexander Von Trub and Mats Olsen. 20th row of this massive grid, Keith Gatehouse and Ajith Kumar. Back in row 21, you'll find Michael Brunhagen and Philippe Ptolemy. And finally, at the back of the field, Fabien Defoe starting by his lonesome in 43rd. What a grid it is. Hopefully we can get them through the first couple of turns cleanly this time, Joe, because once we got to green flag racing, we had plenty to talk about yesterday.
Yeah, we really did. And watch out for that last place 27 Fabien Defoe car, because they were on the podium yesterday and they're only there because of an incident in qualifying as we go on board the #1 Mustang. We talk about the V8 growl every single time we go on board, and quite rightly so. Such a good noise. You can see the front two cars actually jockeying there quite close together. They have to stop weaving as they leave this corner now as we go on board with Kumar. So that weaving needs to stop left to right. We actually saw a penalty in the GT2 race earlier for excessive weaving beyond that point.
These are the hairy moments before the start. You're looking around, you're trying to figure out who's going to start next to you, who starts behind you. You know, by this stage in the season, the strengths and weaknesses, the tendencies of those who start around you. How much do you take that into account as you try and plan the start to the race?
It's so hard to start these races with so many cars. My mindset was always, I'm going to be on the front foot, not from an aggressive to make positions, but if I am on the front foot going as fast as people around me, I can't get hit from the rear. So at least that mitigates 50% of the possible contact. And if I do make contact, at least it's my fault, and I can own up for that slightly easier.
The field at a crawl behind that beautiful Maserati car that is pacing the field. Imagine I wouldn't say no, nor would many of the fans if it decided to stay out and do a couple of laps ahead of the field, but instead it peels off to the pit lane, and we close in on the start of the 6th race of the season. Here comes the field, the lights go green, and we are racing. 1 hour on the clock. It's already ticking down the run to La Source as the field starts to spread out a bit. Big move around the outside by Piana in that blue BMW, unable to get to the flank and stay there, and now Piana finds himself coming under attack. First half of the field cleanly through the hairpin.
Yeah, all looked clean through. It looked like a good start initially from the elite car. It was going to drag through that RAFA Racing Club car, which it has now side by side with the BMW. Some shortcuts being taken. That'll be hard for race control. Big contact in the background there. The speed car hit from the other Borson Automotive into the middle of the track.
Oh, this is scary stuff. Oh, and it looked like there might have been more contact as well as the stricken Audi found itself in the middle of the field in a big pile up at the back of the pack. Worst case scenario, coming up the hill, unsighted and right in the middle of the field. Immediately we go red flag with less than a minute off the clock and several contending cars caught up in the melee.
The unfortunate nature of Spa, high-speed corners, opening laps, tires come up to temperatures, all cars slowing down now to 80 kilometers an hour, and they will line up back on the grid. And yeah, it was a clean start through La Source, which was impressive for 44 cars, but we saw that Audi get turned around at the top of Rouge there.
And was a car that qualified nicely, 4th position. Ended up turned around, as you say, and right in the line of fire with over 30 cars still behind at that point coming through the picture. A couple of walking wounded at the back of the shot a moment ago. Saw some smoke off the back of what I believe was a Ginetta.
You're right, it's the red car there, isn't it, in the mid-pack, rear right, smoking there. So the cars go into parc fermé conditions under a red flag, so even though the team will want to try and repair this Ginetta, for example, they cannot touch it until the race countdown resumes. And it's a rear right puncher, isn't it? It looks like, look at that rubbing against the bodywork, slight brake fire. That's relatively common when a car stops with hot brakes. Maybe some oil, maybe just some rubber on that. The marshals there very quickly, but a relatively large amount of front end damage on that NM Racing GT4 Mercedes.
Such a frustrating way to start the race, and of course, hopefully these cars do what they do best, built to protect the racing driver, but several big impacts at the start of this race. All cars, as you can see, directed by race control to stop on the grid at the start line. And you make a good point about the parc fermé conditions. One thing the team can do is take a look at the car and at least form a plan of attack, and that's what they'll try and do to maximize the repairs and minimize the time required to enact those repairs.
Exactly that, the team looking on from the pit wall. The standard procedure is that it will be allowed to send one mechanic with a jump battery, the external battery, the power source, because obviously these cars are designed to be lightweight, so the battery on board isn't really designed to keep the ignition on for too long. So as a driver, you sometimes get this awkward predicament where you have to keep the car on, so you've got radio communications, but you know you're draining all the systems. Some of the cars have air conditioning, which is a huge current draw.
Mr. Vekkewala, நாங்க ஒரு couple trip போனோம். அது ரொம்ப
to a bare minimum. The Ginetta just about keeping up with the pack with that heavily damaged rear right tyre. And luckily for him, the lower speed of this is allowing that car not to at least completely deconstruct it. And that car was deconstructed in race one, hence the slightly quirky front colour on it. It doesn't match with the rest because the original one was rather destroyed in the side of the 61 Academy Mustang at turn one yesterday.
Yeah, that was a big one for sure, and took out a couple of contending cars, not just in the race, but in the championship context as well. Cresswell, Piana, Davies, Lassen, Nasca, that is the top five. Nasca leading in class, of course. But it's silver cars running 1 through 4. Cars creeping their way onto the grid, and this is where they will be stopped. Again, if you're just joining us, red flag incident coming up the hill from Eau Rouge to Radion on the opening lap of the race. Multiple cars involved in that incident. And that has brought out an immediate red flag. And we now wait for the safety crew to do what they do, track crew to do the cleanup as well. But this is so frustrating for a driver, right? You're in the car, you're all pumped up, you go through your ritual to be ready to race, and less than a few corners in, and it all comes to a screeching halt.
Yep, exactly that. Because we hadn't reached the end of the first sector line, this is going to be a full re-grid. So any cars that have made spaces, annoyingly for them, will have to give them back. The front four all in similar position to where they started, so it's not going to affect them. But with such a large field, some guys that have had a good start, for example, will have to go back to their original starting positions.
That is an interesting, interesting tweak to the regulations, of course, with the fact that we didn't get the racing lap completed. But yeah, frustrating moments here. Beautiful blue skies overhead, good crowd on hand. They too were here anticipating the start of this race, and now we all have to sit and wait and hope for a resumption of this before the clock ticks out. 53 minutes, 35 seconds, of course, still on the timer. Since we have a moment, maybe we look ahead to what's to come a little bit later on today with the CrowdStrike 24 Hours of Spa. 74 cars set to take the start. A super competitive Super Pole that we saw yesterday. Great session there, and we could talk more about that in a moment. But right now, it sounds like Luke Ibanez is standing by with Alex. Let's get a chance to hear from the Spaniard now, down with Alex.
Luke, you have vast amounts of experience, and the GT4 is turning out to be a very packed and very competitive grid. What's key to nailing the GT4 series?
Well, the GT4 Series is an amazing championship because we have a lot of fast drivers, official and unofficial brands drivers, and it's important to be on the top of this championship because it's the next step GT3, and we know everybody what is the level of GT3, and we are always there in the top spots, and we are batting with the victory. Last race in Zandvoort, we were batting there both races. Here we have a bit bad luck on qualifying, but we are there, and I think this championship is a good for experience and take experience for GT3.
How special is it to race at Spa?
Spa is difficult, but if you manage to do a good quali and then good setup on the race with safe setup, you can manage to win the race easy. Look, yesterday BMW looked super fast, and we always did. 5 years ago we won it in window wet, and we are there. It's Spa is always different.
Is it one of your top three or your top?
Top three, yeah.
Top three. What's top then?
Top Misano. Misano's top one.
Well, good.
Yeah. 5 years, 5 poles, 5 wins. Misano's top one.
Well, we'll be heading there soon, so that's good.
Yeah, it's the next one.
Yeah, good.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And good to hear from Luke Ibanez there, back once again with NM Racing Mercedes-AMG GT4, teamed with Alex Papadopoulos. Very interesting. He knew his stats at Misano right off the top of his head and was able to say, yep, that's my favorite track because of all of the success that he has had there over the course of his career. This is a look at the cleanup that is underway, and it is extensive. Just eyeballing it, you can already see at least 3 cars involved, and it sure appeared at the time that there might be more. That cleanup is ongoing. When we have more information, we'll be sure to pass it along to you. Drivers are, it appears, getting out of their cars, and that will be a welcome relief here under these red flag conditions to get out of the hot cockpit, which is just soaking up the sun here in the Belgian countryside.
Yeah, exactly. I think we have 6 cars at the top of Eau Rouge, and here at Spa, obviously a Formula One standard circuit, the medical centre, second to none, and I do know that from personal experience, so everyone will be in the best possible hands. 2 of the drivers talking on the grid there as Kumar and Dufay. They've actually raced together, both based out in the Middle East, and the drivers tend to then just get into their sort of fraternity groups, I guess you would say in your language, Ryan.
Sure.
They will pass some notes. How is their car feeling, and how are you feeling about the restart? And then the more sort of pro-orientated drivers will tend to just go around by themselves and just keep themselves to themselves, because it's difficult as a driver when you're side to side, toe to toe with another driver that's a friend, and then when we take the restart, you've got to be pushing them up to the wall. It's sometimes hard to have that twofold split personality, shall we say.
Yeah, that is a difficult balance to strike, especially in the world of sports car racing, where it is not uncommon to be friendly with your competitors. Back down to the grid with Guinel.
Ricardo Van Dand driving the number 17 BMW together with Benjamin Le Sen, driving at home here this weekend in Spa-Francorchamps. Talk to us about yesterday, since you ended up quite good.
Yeah, yesterday we started far back, so it's easier to make your front all the way to the front. But yeah, we finished 6th, so that was all okay. And today Ben started 10th, and he's already in P5, so it should be okay. But I really worry about all drivers. I hope all drivers is okay. Cars we can replace, but drivers we can't replace. So I hope everything is okay.
Starting from 5th row today, you just said that you're now back to P4. You can fight for the podium in the silver class and even the overall top 3.
We can always fight for the podium. It's Les Pas Bienvenue with the BMW. So together with my teammate, who only lives 1 hour away from here, from Spa, so he knows where to go. But we always have an opportunity to go to the podium.
Did you count on the times you came here racing at Spa-Francorchamps?
Oh, I've been racing for more than 20 years in GT4, so I stopped counting. So I don't know.
What about entering the CrowdStrike 24 Hours of Spa in the coming years?
Who knows? Yeah, hopefully Andre Grammatico can get hold of one GT3, and maybe we'll do it in the future.
Hopefully. Thank you.
Merci.
Good to hear from Ricardo, former French GT champion, silver class, about a half decade or so ago, and he made reference to his teammate, co-driver, who's in the car at the moment, Benjamin Lassagne, from just an hour or so away. Always nice to have a teammate who knows the local ways into the track, knows the best eateries, things like that.
Yeah, it just makes the whole weekend much more enjoyable. And he talks about Grammatico. I remember him buying the first ever BMW GT4 car back in 2009. So what a supporter of BMW and GT4 as a concept.
Yeah, for sure. Been with them and that team for quite a few years now. Another interview down with Alex. Let's go there now.
Thought I'd have a quick chat to the TikTok, Instagram superstar, Mr. YouTube. Oh yeah, get that in there. Right, yesterday you didn't even manage to get in the car. Have you fixed the issue?
Yeah, we fixed it.
What, with like gaffer and some ice packs? How did you fix it?
I don't know, that's a mechanic stuff, but it seems like a cable went on fire, so a short circuit, and then luckily there was no kaboom, it was just and then the car stopped, luckily. And luckily it was the best cable to fix. Now we fixed, the car works, I survived the Eau Rouge, and that's the most important thing. And now I'm in a good position, yeah. I mean, the unlucky thing is that Spa is not an easy track, so you need to practice, and I didn't practice enough. Yesterday I didn't drive, so I'm doing my best. I just follow the cars in front of me, and I try to keep their pace and bring the car to Stefano, and then Stefano knows what to do. So
I love that. How many times have you raced here then?
I just did once a 20-minute session with 500 Abarth in 2013. And then I rolled over in the second session, so I went back home and I didn't race. So yeah, that's my experience in Spa. And I can guarantee you that a GT4 is much faster than a 500 in here.
And how special is it to be driving here? What's the track like from your perspective?
I mean, honestly, I think this is the best track in the world. Every time they ask me about my favorite track, I say Spa. I'm so sad that it's not going to be every year in Formula One, because coming here, I realized that as a driver, this is a step higher, okay? So you race in Paul Ricard, you race in Zandvoort, you immediately get used to the track. Yeah. Here, it takes 2 or 3 days. Yeah. There are some corners like the Eau Rouge and Blanchimont, which going to the limit there, it means risking the car, and it's probably the hardest corners that I ever experienced.
What's the mindset approach when you're leading up to a race like this? Because it's not just about the physical demand, is it? The mental approach, it must be quite different to some of the other tracks.
I mean, I'm used to race now. I did many races now in Italy, and about the physical, you know, I gained 10 kilos, so I'm holding my belly now. But you know, after that, I become violet because I'm not breathing to look in shape. But you know, I'm too heavy right now. But yeah, like that. This is my friend.
The cameraman is tapping his rather fruity belly.
Luckily, we have the BOP that balances also the weight of the driver. So I said, okay, I can eat some more tiramisu. And, you know, about the physical, there is no problem. The mental, there is no problem. The problem is just surviving the Eau Rouge.
And what is it like surviving with Stefano D'Aste? Because I've known him for a very long time. He's quite a character, quite a feisty Italian, isn't he? You seem like a great pairing.
You know what? Yesterday, after the incident, as soon as he came back to the pit lane, the first thing he did, he was turning on the grill to grill some meat and prepare their dinner. That's how he I don't know the English word for the, you know, he was frustrated, and so he decided to cook. And apart from that, in the qualifying, I had the delta of his best lap in the wet conditions, and usually I'm fast in wet conditions, okay? So I was giving my everything, and I saw the delta going up and up and up, and I said, how the hell did he go that fast in qualifying? That's insane.
And that's why I say that this track is so selective, because if you're a pro racing driver with big experience, you see it in Spa, in wet condition especially. It was, I mean, that's an incredible school for me. But you know, the good thing about the two of us as teammates is that, you know, mostly he's a teacher for me, but in some things I'm also a teacher for him, because, you know, I train on the simulator and I invited him to my house and teaching something that he doesn't have the simulator, so you can tweak some things for real life, and that's very important to have two drivers with two different skill sets, because you can learn from each other.
And Steph, we're talking about you, not to you. Much to his dismay, I'm sure.
I need to get in the car, back on track.
Oh, really? Okay. Good stuff. Thank you, Alberto.
Bye-bye. See me on the television.
Yeah, make sure you follow his YouTube and all that.
Yeah, YouTube is apparently what we need to stress. Really good stuff from both Alex and Ganel. Thank you for doing the yeoman's work as we are under red flag conditions here at Spa-Francorchamps. Incident on the first lap, as you can see, just up the hill at the exit of Raidillon, where the incident occurred. We believe somewhere around 6 cars were involved, but the drivers of the remaining cars have been called to their race cars, Joe, and it would appear from this shot all the way down at the end of the Kemmel Straight that the cleanup might be coming to an end.
Yep, we're getting ready for a restart procedure still in Parc Fermé, hence why that Pirelli tyre looks like that. You can see some contact probably on the rear right, just behind the tyre, has caused that puncture. So the teams here have the problem at the end of the race weekend in this race. What's their freshest tyre they can put on? They haven't got time to go and get a fresh tyre, new tyre from Pirelli and use one of their Joker cards. So they're just going to have to bolt on a tyre that's probably at an end of a race stint. So that's going to be difficult there. We can see one of the clean-up tractors just trying to get rid of some of the debris off the outside of the last corner, maybe heading up to the top of Eau Rouge to help clean up all the cement dust that's had to be put down on the fluid at the top there.
Now that tyre can't be changed out there on the grid, presumably.
It can, as soon as the Parc Fermé is lifted, they will allow that. And okay. I did see a team member there with an air bottle where they can obviously plug it in, lift the car up, and just wheel a tyre straight over there. Some drivers still not got the message, have they, that they need to get back in the cars. You can see the front end of the grid seem to have been communicated better. You can see NASCAR actually getting in the passenger side of the Lotus there, where some of these tail end drivers still haven't got the message that the restart is imminent. And we haven't got anything on race control. We will get a full countdown as we see Cindy and Joachim Bolton, isn't it, there in deep discussion.
Well, good to know that they can get that tire changed on effectively what is the grid, because they were called there. They weren't allowed to come into the pit lane, and you wouldn't want to send that car limping around on a cut-down tire. So that is certainly good news for the CMR team as we continue to wait for official confirmation of when this race will resume. One thing I haven't brought up yet is the fact, and we heard it a little bit from Alberto in his interview just a moment ago, the fact that the conditions were quite challenging, damp in qualifying means the grid is a little bit mixed up. We saw that in race 1, that cars that were exceptionally fast in the wet maybe weren't quite as potent in the dry, and vice versa. And of course, the grid for both races was set in that relatively damp time of qualifying. So we could have an instances of some comers and goers given the pace disparity of teams and drivers and cars, wet to dry.
Yeah, it's a very fair comment, and these cars very different in wet conditions, drivers very different in wet conditions, so you can actually see that Borson Automotive BMW now on the right side. That's us getting ready for a full restart.
Well, while some of the drivers are getting suited up, we have a couple others we can still speak to. Adrien David is standing by.
Adrien, David, yesterday was a tough day at the office for you guys since you had a DNF. Today is another opportunity to get more points.
Yes, clearly we have been waiting for race 2 since yesterday evening. So yeah, we are very happy to start in a better position than yesterday. And have a good start, a clean race, not like yesterday. And hopefully we can fight for the podium in the overall race. I think we have the pace for it.
How much you like this Spa-Francorchamps racetrack? It's always something special.
Yes, I've been racing here in single-seater for many years, and being here in GT for my first season with the team is very nice, and especially with the Toyota, because we have a good combo with corner and top speed, so should be fine for the race.
Have a good one. Thank you.
2019 French Formula 4 champion Adrien David spent a number of years in the Alpine Driver Academy before turning his focus to sports car racing, some LMP3 on the resume, some GT4 on the resume, and teamed up here with Jan Duran, of course, TGR team, Matmut Evolution, Toyota GR Supra is the platform.
Yeah, you can see the amount of quick dry that's been put down there, can't you? It's covering the whole circuit. That's going to be what's causing us to stop going racing at the moment, is how they're going to have to try and sweep some of that away, because the car's going so quick over that. It's going to be difficult for the drivers to have any visibility. Yes, we've got tractors here with big blowers on the back, but maybe the best solution would be to do a few laps underneath the safety car, let all the race cars pick it up and blow it away. And apologies, Ryan, if you've mentioned it, but I personally missed it, that the number 11 BMW of Ibrahim actually came into the pits at the end of that lap. So assume there was a problem with that car, and it wasn't him not following the race director's notes there, but he's also been noted for causing a collision. So possible damage, I would say, on that 11 car.
That's the car that started up towards the front. And I believe it was one of those blue BMWs from that team that was certainly side by side in the moment of the start of the accident. The report is that one driver has been taken to the medical center, everyone else checked and released. This is a look back at how this incident unfolded. This is really the start of the race, the rundown into La Source, but I think it's the second blue BMW that's going to be in the middle of this fray, with Abraham, who you mentioned, is in the pit lane. Let's keep an eye on this moment here coming up the hill, Joe.
Yeah, so that second blue BMW is trying to get round the Audi, isn't he? We were looking to the front, and then just watch that green Audi. There's contact, isn't it? The 11 car just understeers into him, damages that rear left suspension, which sends him back across the track. You'll see it here, that blue BMW, bang, and it just goes light over the hill as well for the 11 car. So no intention, I'm sure, but definitely the 11 car's fault. Watch that contact, spears into the Audi. The Audi now flying across, unfortunately gets drawn back into the circuit. Cars scattering left and right, and some cars doing an amazing job, but then it concertinas up. That was the impact we saw. Then another one. So that Audi's been hit 3 times in the space of 200 meters, and yeah, 6 cars ruled out at the top of Eau Rouge, and big damage. All drivers have left the scene. One driver's gone to the medical center, is what we've been told as we go on board with the number 1 Mustang. Now we can see the Lotus making it further than it did yesterday in race 1 with a throttle cable attached. We're behind another Mustang here of the Academy. They're 3 wide, Supra, BMW, Mustang. Look at the power of the Mustang now, has to lift up. Look as high as you can see. That blue BMW next to the Audi. It was contact in the middle. Was that a front right puncture maybe for the BMW? And that's why he couldn't turn left. I'm purely speculating. Look at the Audi come across, and then there was another 8, 9 cars got past, and then unfortunately the next bunch did not.
Difficult circumstance, of course, because not only is it unsighted coming up the hill, but it's also maybe the narrowest part of the track, and if a car gets bounced back into the path, as we saw there with the Audi, the consequences tend to look a lot like that. But as we've said, 5 of the 6 drivers involved have been checked and cleared. 1 driver taken for further evaluation. That is the update that we have at the moment. Cleanup still underway. At least 1 more car to clear, it would appear, off on the right side, unless that's maybe that was a circuit vehicle. But we are getting closer, as once again drivers were told to start putting helmets back on after taking a few moments out of the car. And now you have to refocus yourself on the task at hand, especially for those that drove through the melee. They saw that. They experienced it. Now they have to put it out of their minds as it's time to go back to work.
Yeah, and again, drivers have different mentalities, and this can be a big difference between pro and AMS. As a pro, I'd always kind of look at that incident. If I'd seen it, I go, well, I avoided it the first time. It can't be any worse the second time, and you put it to the back of your mind. Whereas an AM, where you're doing this for fun, it's a slightly different proposition. And it looks like we've got Eau Rouge Beach at the top there. I've generally never seen the quantity of quick dry put down across the whole circuit. That's going to be kicking up a lot of dust. We saw some of it on the exit of La Source yesterday after support race. And this is the team pleading to try and get the tyre change. But at the moment, we have no indication of Parc Fermé being open. So at the moment, they're going to have to take the restart as is and box at the end of the lap to do a tyre change, which seems harsh, but if they're not going to over Parc Fermé because we're under tight time constrictions, that is the only option.
Well, this is where I confess my ignorance, but I do wonder what the penalty would have been to come into pit lane and not follow the orders to go out on the grid just to make sure you could get that change taken care of. But anyway, we'll have to let that one get sorted out. Couple of drivers standing by with Alex now. Let's get to the bottom of the crash.
Boy.
ஒரு டிக்டாக் கிடைக்குமா TikTok Fresh Vibe Refresh.
Yeah, happy to see in one part Paul's.
In the middle of that, former runner-up in the silver class in the 24-hour race here a handful of years ago, 2021, and very much a pinball for a good chunk of that accident.
Yeah, what an illustration of roller coaster of emotion in motorsport. Spoke to them on the grid, and quite obviously different emotions and quite quickly changed there. But there's a lot of love between those two mates, and that helps on and off track in all fairness.
A chance to look back on race number 1 yesterday.
So we saw race 1, didn't we, fire into the darkness, and as they came into turn number 1, it was actually the Hendrick Still Porsche from the second row that would get the lead. Eventually we saw contact further back, the Ginetta of Modica going into the side of Eric Evans in that Mustang. We then had an Audi R8 arrive on the scene with another BMW, and that gave quite a lot of damage to the rear left of that Audi, and that forced us into a full course yellow, then safety car procedure to get that Audi out. Ajith Kumar here had a good view of what happened at turn number 1 and did well to avoid the contact. Had to go through a lot of debris and a lot of cars and managed to carry on without any damage to his AV Racing Porsche. There you can see that Audi trying to get going. The front of that BMW heavily damaged, and that retired at the bottom of the hill. That was the cause. The Ginetta of Modica got back to the pits, and that's why it's got a red bonnet on this morning. Here was Henry David going off in the background of Piff Path. Speculation, front right damage there. The championship contender scoring 0 points, getting stuck in the gravel and forcing another full course yellow into safety car. Pit stops starting, the number 1 Mustang coming in as the Audi powered past to take the position of the Elite Motorsport. And there we see the Busan automotive car of Piana making spaces. They pitted early and did a good undercut on a lot of the field. Here we have that number 8 Audi that was so dominant in yesterday's race, and it took the victory. But it wasn't easy down the back of the field. We saw lots of contact, and here we saw Piana doing his trademark outside move. First of all on the Audi, second of all on the Elite McLaren. This one didn't go so much to plan and attracted a 10-second penalty for Piana at the end of the race. Last lap, last corner, the Piana move done again. This was for the win on the road, but the 10-second penalty inherited the win. Back to that number 8 Audi R8 from Speed Car Racing. It was a great race into the night, and it feels like just yesterday we were racing as we get ready for race number 2 this morning here at Spa-Francorchamps.
Appreciate that, Joe. Yeah, everyone waiting for this race to resume. And a chance to hear from a couple more drivers. Josh Radigan standing by with Gunnell down pit side.
Josh, we just had a look back on what happened yesterday during race 1. Can you take us through that race that was surely a bit frustrating for you guys.
I mean, yeah, we didn't get obviously the most ideal start, obviously into P2. Obviously, we just kept it there pretty much for the whole race, fine with the Audi and the Porsche. And then obviously on the last sort of few laps, Mackenzie obviously got touched and it was a bit unlucky, but we come back stronger for today, hopefully.
Today is a new day, starting again from pole position, leading the race, but there's everything to be started again.
Yeah, it's always play for at the minute. Obviously, it's a big accident. Luckily, everyone's okay, I think. So, touch wood, we get a good start again, and we'll see what we can do.
What about this beautiful racetrack of Spa-Francorchamps with the McLaren?
Yeah, it's obviously it's a tricky track. Obviously, we don't have the straight line speed like some of the other people do, which is where we obviously lose the time. But through the corners, we get it back, and obviously McLaren is perfect here, I reckon. So.
Thanks a lot, Josh.
No worries.
Have a good one.
It has been a really stout package so far, not just in GT4 trim, but we should note, of course, it is a McLaren on the overall pole for the 78th running of the CrowdStrike 24 Hours of Spa coming up later today and, of course, into tomorrow as well. But, yeah, it's been a good package for McLaren, whether you're talking about the Artura or the 720S. Both look awfully stout, and we've had McLaren Trophy racing here as well.
Yep, and the elite car that's on pole position, it's had 4 pole positions in a row here at Spa for GT4, and I used to race the old 570 here as well, and that was a force to be reckoned with as well. So the McLaren's always going well at Spa, that carbon fibre chassis, the stiffness of that, the V8 turbo in the old 570 and the 720, and the V6 turbo in the Artura, very well suited to this proper driver's circuit.
As you can see, the cleanup continues up at the top of the hill. That's effectively right at pit exit as well. There at the exit of Radion. Drivers hesitant to fully commit to getting in the cars. They've got the helmets on, but many of them are standing by waiting until the time comes when they absolutely must climb aboard. These race cars, when moving, the airflow is good and the cooling, therefore, is manageable, but sitting still, even if it's not a super hot day today here in Belgium, you really don't want to be sitting baking in those cockpits if you can avoid it, and that's what most of the drivers seem to be trying to do right now.
Yeah, exactly, and that's the hard bit is, would you wear a woolly hat on a sunny day like this? No. Do you want to wear a full face helmet? Definitely not then. Do you want to wear a balaclava under that? Ideally not. Okay, you are. And then the fireproofs. They're much, much thicker now. The latest regulations from the FIA, the 2018 Spec 1, is so much thicker than the previous one. Romain Grosjean's shunt at Bahrain in F1 really prompted that. And as a driver, they feel, honestly, 3 to 4 times thicker. They're not breathable. So any fresh air you can get over your body is really at a premium. So that's why we're seeing them wait until the last possible moment to get back in the car. And there is the Marshal's doing an amazing job of clearing off some of that dust, so when these cars do fire over it, hopefully their visibility is not compromised too much.
Yeah, the Marshals are many times the unsung heroes, but when things go sideways, they come to the fore. Great job with the cleanup, great job by the safety crew as well. And to come to a circuit like this one as a driver, Joe, you mentioned it earlier, you know the facilities are totally up to standard. You know the staff has been trained to deal with any situation. Does that give you just that extra level of confidence going into any kind of scary moment?
Maybe if you were clever as a driver and thinking about it, but maybe with hindsight now, of course, and you know you're in a world-class operation. We've seen that so much this weekend. Actually praised them yesterday rarely for the speed of recovery, and it allows us to get so much more racing. You can see the amount of assets the circuit owned just at the top of Eau Rouge to be able to effectively clean this up, and that's why it's a world-class facility. For example, I have no idea what that orange machine is in the middle. It almost looks like a lawnmower, but I assume it's a sweeper of some form. And yeah, the circuits invest heavily because SRO in turn invests heavily in them. So it's a great partnership between the championship organisers and these circuits.
If you're just joining us, we've not completed a single racing lap on lap 1 just after the green was displayed up the hill from Eau Rouge to Radion. An incident involving 6 cars brought out an immediate red flag. Stoppage of the race as a consequence. 5 drivers checked and cleared. 1 transported to medical for further evaluation. But early indications are positive, and that is the most important news. I heard from Paul Petit a little bit earlier, who was very much in the middle of it, a little bit shaken up, as you might imagine, but able to speak with us, which we very much appreciate. And we're now just waiting for the cleanup to conclude, and it looks like we are getting closer then, as the little orange sweeper has been joined by a much bigger tractor with a blowing device to hopefully clear off all of the quick dry, which was needed in abundance. So many of those cars involved, dropping fluid significantly all over the course of all over the track, and consequently that needs to be attended to before the race can resume. Look there at the Hardy race fans, who have found what appeared to me to be a rather precarious perch overlooking the track. This track is wonderful to walk around, and you could find some unique vantage points, like up on the rocks. Why not do a little rock climbing while you're at the racetrack? And looks like it's nice and in the shade as well. Comfortable spot to watch from. Nice high perch. Looking down onto the racing surface, and that is one of the great things about coming here. Fans get a little game of Uno in. You can walk around, if not the entire circuit, then most of it. I've never done the full loop, but I've come around quite a bit. And it is a wonderful place to watch. So many great vantage points around this track. Do we have some information about how close we might be to a restart?
Yeah, 5 minutes before restart. Part Ferme open. So those teams getting to work now, so that Ginetta will get a new rear tyre as well, obviously. And yeah, the restart is the procedure. So expect in 5 minutes to go from the 10-minute countdown to the 5. That can be sped up, and we still go through the process, so it'll be 10 minutes, but it might not be a 5-minute gap between the 10-minute board and the 5-minute board. The team there just checking with their trusty right foot that there's no damage. Maybe just trying to push away some of the heat shielding off the exhaust that runs through the side sill of that Ginetta to make sure it's all clear. And it's definitely a used tyre going on, isn't it? It's actually got quite a lot of marbles and stones on it, because I assume they weren't expecting to use that tyre again.
A couple of cars we got glimpses of that are sporting some battle scars, having made it through not entirely unscathed. The multi-car incident that brought the red flag out in the first place a moment ago saw JSB Competition's car with a little bit of damage at the right front that they were working on. I think the Papadopoulos Mercedes in one of the replays we saw might have caught just a little bit of the Audi and might have sustained a little bit of damage there as well. So this will be a crucial time for these teams to look over the cars, enact any repairs that are deemed necessary, make sure there's clearance, as you can see there, between the fender and the tire. This is that Ginetta that we've been chronicling for the better part of 10 minutes now.
It's always hard as a mechanic, a team there. He doesn't want to draw attention to this damage in case the scrutineer's looking and goes, no, 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 you're not racing that.
At Kalyan Jewelers, get flat 50% off on value edition. Conditions apply.
The brake disc itself, and are they taken off the left front as well? We might get a view here what they're looking at. It looks like to me they're trying to adjust the track arm there, so maybe there's been contact and it's knocked the toe out, and they're just going to try and wing this and try and work out how to get the alignment correct on that front axle. The driver would have said, I've got a bit of right hand down, and the team would normally put this on a perfectly level patch, get the strings, get the lasers out and make sure that is millimeter perfect. But force majeure is forcing them into some proper work in the trenches.
That's the CMR, Michael Simpson, Ethan Gialdani entry that was undergoing those repairs. Think about the pressure these crews are under to get this done in a relatively short window of time.
Yeah, we talked about assets.
The race will be resumed in 2 minutes. We will restart on the original grid behind safety car.
Which is what we expected. We're talking about assets. There's not a better asset in motorsport than tape, and the second one was cable ties, zip ties. They were there as well, so that's your motorsport meme for the day. If you can't fix it with those two items, then you might as well go home. And again, this is suspension damage. There's a comically sized wrench there dropped on the floor, and they're just trying to get these cars to the end. And we're still not fully sure on a race time, but these cars potentially in even more of a sprint battle, I think, than the 1 hour race we were forecast for.
In the event these repairs are not done in time, what would the repercussions be?
So it will be a drive-through penalty for working on the car after the 3-minute board. So we'll be counting down, and actually I can see another air bottle being rushed to a car on the grid. And do you remember that Formula One race where Max Verstappen went off on the outlap to Hungaroring? And the audio, if you've got 10 minutes, listen to it. It's amazing. The Red Bull sort of crew chief talking to the team about procedure. Can we get it done? And this will go all the way down motorsport. They'll know what they can fit. The mechanic will get asked from the engineer, very annoyingly, how long does this take? As long as it takes. And then the job will be done. But they are now evaporating into seconds left to get that job done.
Now, the amazing thing to me always is the speed with which, under any circumstances, no matter the weather, no matter how tired they are, the speed with which a racing mechanic can enact a repair that it would seemingly take days for my mechanic down the road to be able to do on my car. They could get it done in minutes.
Amazing how slow you can do something when you're on $100 an hour, right?
You think that's the cause of it, do you? No, you might be onto something. Well, in any event, you also have to say the racing crew members are a special breed and deserve to be commended, especially if you think about some of these crews that are taking part in the CrowdStrike 24 Hours of Spa. Some of them, this will be their third 24-hour race in consecutive weeks. And you think about the fatigue. Just as a fan at home trying to watch a 24-hour race, think about what it takes to service one of these cars and then to do that 3 straight weeks. And, of course, it's not just the race either. Whether we're talking about Le Mans or the Nürburgring or Spa, it's a long build-up as well to the race itself, which can be just as exhausting as the 24 hours of competition. Well, good news is the cars are rolling once again after a lengthy stoppage. What remains to be seen is just how much of this race remains to be run. The clock has disappeared from my screen in terms of the countdown, so with any luck, it looks like, okay, I now know where to look. Thank you, Joe. Under 17 minutes on the clock, which means we have lost well over half of this race, going on 3/4 of this race to that incident on the first lap. And I know we've got other events still to come on the schedule before the 24-hour race later on today, so I'm not entirely sure what the stewards have at their disposal in terms of trying to perhaps put a little time back on the clock.
Victim of our own success, aren't we? We've got such a busy schedule here. Of course, the headline is the 24 hours, but we have multiple support races: GT4, GT2, McLaren Trophy, Lamborghini Super Trofeo. We've got parade laps, we've got hot laps, we've got fan activation. One of the fan activations last night were the crowd getting on the track and able to sign the curb up through Eau Rouge there. So it isn't just watching cars go around in circles here at Spa.
Now, it is a festival. We've got the music, if you didn't mention that as well, overnight. That's become a big part of this event in recent years. And there's no surprise, there's no mystery as to why this event continues to grow year on year. The on-track offering gets better and better. The off-track offering improves as well. It's a great festival for those who love cars, who love motorsport. And if you've not been, I wholeheartedly recommend you've put this at the very top of your bucket list.
And beer.
Well, there is that too.
Interesting to see Gabriella Duke over there ready in a helmet, because she's probably not 100% aware of what's going on there. We see race control there. They have been working above and beyond already before the 24-hour, getting this race back underway, making sure all drivers, cars are recovered properly as well. So kudos to everyone in race control there.
Yes, well done to them. Well done to the marshals and the emergency safety team here at the track. And thanks as well to you, the fans, whether you're watching trackside or watching from home. Thanks for sticking with us through a lengthy red flag. Because we are already down under 15 minutes to go, that means for these starting drivers, it's going to be, well, really for everybody, but especially the starting drivers, I suspect, a very short race with pit stops imminent after the resumption of the race to get that driver change taken care of.
Yeah, well, obviously, without stating the obvious, we're under safety car at the moment as well, and at the moment, the safety car is still out. I haven't seen the safety car in yet, so potentially expect another lap after this. And the cars need this because the tyres obviously would have been fully cold again, so they're working these back up to temperature, and they will probably need that extra safety car lap after these ones, and that's why we're seeing the drivers weaving so hard left to right. And because it is a safety car restart, they're not going to go 2 by 2 over the start line when we do go back to green. It will be a single file start.
One question I have for you, normally I'm doing the Pirelli GT4 America race, which has similar regulations, but irritatingly are just a little bit different, as it does seem like we have been able to add a little bit of time to the clock now. As you can see, 28 minutes, 24 seconds. So that has added about 10 minutes or a little bit more to the remaining time in this race, and that's fantastic news for the drivers. But my question to you, with the regulations here, are pits closed here under the safety car? You couldn't do your pit stop under these conditions, correct?
Yes, exactly. So it keeps it fair for everyone, as we do see that Ginetta pit. So the damage they tried to fix obviously is not, and they've decided they're probably going to have to either try and spend some more time on it and catch the safety car up, or retire that car. But we've effectively got a 30-minute sprint race, so it's normally a 60-minute, so everything is being halved. So these drivers now know that they can go max attack, no looking after the tires, no looking after the brakes. My fear with that is that drivers now know they've got less time to make up positions, so their risk versus reward ratio goes out of the window, and that's already a trouble with some of these drivers.
That's true. What seems like an hour ago, we were talking about the fact that the grid was set in qualifying under wet conditions, which meant there were a lot of fast cars in the dry that are starting further back. And so for them, there is that extra incentive to try and make up ground as quickly as possible now, with limited time in which to do it. Good news is safety car will be in this lap. Just got to look at the Texan, Jason Hart, suited and booted. He's getting ready to go to replace Matt Travis, 2 Texas drivers for a New Orleans-based team, and I have no doubt if they have a good weekend here, they'll head back to the Lone Star State of Texas and celebrate with a Lone Star Steakhouse steak. Got that to look forward to.
You can see Mike Simpson in the background there, Motorsport Director of Ginetta, podium finisher yesterday as well, and yeah, looking pretty for long. Shame for him after a mega result yesterday for that car.
Yeah, it's amazing, right? On these doubleheader weekends, if it goes poorly for you in race 1, the good news is you get to do it again the next day. The bad news is if it goes well for you in day 1, then you have to try and find a way to repeat the magic in day 2, which makes it all the more special when you do. But it's tough when you have a great race 1, but nothing to speak of in race 2, and you kind of leave the weekend, even if you had a win earlier in the weekend, feeling a little bit down, because the most recent race is the one that leaves the taste in your mouth.
Yeah, you're totally right. Goldfish memory for most racing drivers. They only remember the last lap or the last race, and yeah, that will be tough. As we see the pack starting to bunch up now, accelerate braking. The safety car lights should be extinguished at turn number 14 in 3 corners time, and then we're going to go back to racing. And another beautiful example of the Maserati MC20 there as well. Drivers limbering up, getting ready for their second stint. They could be getting in roughly about 7.5 minutes. The pit window will open.
Now, because of the lengthy red flag and then subsequent safety car period, we haven't had much green flag time, and mostly because of the red flag, the pit window has shifted. We'll let you know when we're approaching it, but right now a couple of minutes away at least. Lights off on the safety car, and very soon, if it hasn't already, it should start to pull ahead and leave the field under the controls of Cresswell in the McLaren, coming to the restart. Now keep in mind, Cresswell and Piana had coming together at the tail end of the race yesterday. Gabriele was quite clear on the grid. We are not friends. We are not even acquaintances, but they're ready to renew this rivalry that appears to be brewing here one more time as we close in on the restart.
Funnily enough, that's what my wife says about me as well. And Cresswell has gone already. He's gone early. He's caught the back of it. And it looked like to me he was then backing off, but Piana on the flashes already. Relatively early start, and that spaced this field out.
Here they come through that final chicane and on to the pit straight, one of the 2 pit straights, I suppose, here, but the beginning of the pits, the new pits, and the green is out once again. Good getaway for the McLaren. BMW in hot pursuit, but it's in the middle of a couple of McLarens. Big move is further back. This is for 10th place, and the position does change hands with Consani going by Sailor.
As we see that Toyota Supra in the gravel again, that was the car the DNF yesterday, trying to squeeze the one Mustang there, cuts him off well, survives another day, but no momentum as we go on board with that Mustang. We saw it get cut off through a Rouge, struggles with the corner speed, getting a bit of dirty air off the Supra, but now the Mustang can start to stretch its legs down this long Kemmel Straight.
I love to hear that V8 roar. This is where it roars its loudest in the run down the Kemmel Straight. Actually, though, looking a bit vulnerable for the moment there. Had to go up slightly on the defensive, able to hold on to the position. Nice to see the field cleanly through the first couple of turns. This is the first time through this part of the track at speed here in this race with 23 minutes to go.
Looking bolting under attack there from Sidney Ganu, think, and just survived, but cars dirting all over the place, and we're hearing the car 10 Ginetta has retired, so shame for them. Like we said, at the moment Piano sticking with Cresswell, pulling away from the third place McLaren of Callum Davis.
Yeah, unfortunate news for the CMR team. You saw them doing the best that they could under the circumstances, trying to enact some repairs before the race resumed, but unable to get it done. Now we check in on the leaders in the Pro-Am Cup. That Lotus doing a nice job once again here. The pace has been strong this weekend. They had that issue with some wiring that went up in flames yesterday. That was a setback for them. Maybe this shorter race is a bit to that car's liking. They can just push here since the resumption of the events.
Yeah, we can see the battle here going on with that number one Mustang that was having to fend at the Kemmel, like you said, Kasani all over the back of him. So that Mustang actually not really got much pace, considering it was trying to get past that Supra that's 10 lengths in front of it now. We've seen this Audi so strong in a straight line. This is a proper drag race as they hurtle into Blanchimont now.
Consani, the man on the move here on this lap, cracked the top 10 with his pass of Sailor a little bit earlier on. Now around the Supra as well, and sizing up for 8th place, the Ford Mustang. Here's a move with BMW and McLaren. We saw this in this corner just one day ago, but this time they emerge on the other side.
These kids are too respectful. They both did the opposite to what they did yesterday. Piana backed out and Cresswell gave him a car width on the apex, but now it's an awkwardness. If that happens again, what do? They've done version 1 where they hit each other, done version 2 where they were too polite. Version 3, sorry, is going to be somewhere in the middle then.
Battle is on here as the Mustang looks like it did drop the spot in that fight. Consani now up to 8th place. Haveren's in the Mustang now under attack from Homeland in the Toyota Supra. This is for positions 9 and 10. Back half of the top 10 overall. Good little battle pack starting to form behind the Mustang.
As we see the cars stream through, it's easy to forget how big this field is. Even with 6 cars lost, we've still got 38 racing as Piana again tries the outside, this time into Lecombe. It looks like the BMW's got the pace. He's got the overrun here on the exit of Lecombe. Great move. Cresswell gives him the space. Is he going to try and cut back down the hill into Brussels?
Outstanding move there to get to the lead from Piana. Does it cleanly this time. Cresswell sizing him up for a counterattack, but really has no recourse. Has to settle back in. Put the BMW to the 4, shuffle the McLaren back into the 2nd spot, and now Piana will look to try and disappear, build as much of a gap as he can before turning that car over as we have entered the pit window.
Exactly, pit window already open, so I expect Piana to go long because he's got the most amount of space in front. Any cars here held up, potentially looking to box Kasani in that Audi now all over back of the Supra there, sort of Duran, isn't it? He's looking to the inside. The Lotus in close pursuit as well. That car has lost a few positions this lap. That was actually in front of the Toyota at the start of this lap. So Nisaka starting to lose a couple of positions, but still easily leading the Pro-Am class.
Read my mind. That's the crucial thing. Still out in front in class. It's the green number plate that indicates on the timing and scoring pylon that it is a Pro-Am class car. But now that Consani is through, that has brought Homeland and Moika up to the back of NASCAR, at least starting to close in. This battle here now starting to rage a little bit with Duran and Consani starting to duel.
Yeah, great move down the inside. That's the power of the Audi. Its strength there. It's lost a headlight, hasn't it? It's not lighting up on the left. No problem in these daylight races, of course. And we see Callum Davis the first to box, and Nasaka as well. Expect most of the Pro-Ams to box because they can get their pros in. I just saw Bolting as well getting in there, and he will be handing over to Hendrick still.
Crucial moments here. We saw strategy play a big part in race 1 of the weekend yesterday. The undercut was effective. In this case, really not much mystery to this for those Pro-Am cars. They're going to want to put their stout driver in, their more experienced driver in at the soonest possible opportunity, and that is now with under 19 minutes to go in what has become a truncated 60-minute sprint. Truncated in terms of green flag time, actually longer in terms of the time elapsed from start to finish. And now the crew's going to work as the driver changes are underway.
Remember, there's a minimum pit stop time here of 121 seconds. They can go 1 second under one time a weekend. They have to use their joker. A few teams used it yesterday, but not many. Off the top of my head, I'd say only 5. So most teams keep it for this second race if needed. And proportionally worth more, isn't it? In a shorter race, of course, you can do a bigger undercut with that. So expect some teams to go under the minimum pit stop time, but as long as it's not greater than a second, they're A-OK. And this pit lane's so long here, 996 meters when we combine both of them, 71 seconds just driving through that pit lane at 50 Ks.
Has to feel like an eternity coming down this pit lane. It's as long as any pit lane I can think of.
Yeah, it gives you enough time to spot old mechanics of other teams and give them a nice gesture out the window.
Speaking from experience?
Yeah, I don't have many friends.
Fiona leads.
Murthy's, Ayurchita, Shetty, Patels, and Patels. Haritari right in, Aya.
And Kansani, the man on the move. Brake pressure as well. And Travis jumps out, Jason Hart in the NOLA Sport car. Davies, though, the first to leave the pit lane. Looks like pretty good pit work there from that squad.
Yeah, the RAFA Racing squad now. We've got Charlie Hart.
Brake pressure as well.
With Piana well now after that over pace of Piana. I thought he would pull away, but Cresswell obviously seems to be getting up to speed, or the elite car is getting up to speed at the same time.
Yeah, I agree with you. Cresswell was overtaken somewhat easily, frankly, by Piana, but subsequently has been able to get into a nice rhythm and is keeping the BMW driver honest. And now the goal is just to stay as tight as possible, and hopefully in the last run to the checkers, once the driver change occurs, they're in a position to fight for the win.
Yeah, just looking at the pit stop times at the moment, Ibanez's car, the 15 NM Racing Mercedes, is the only car that's gone under its pit line time by 1/10 of a second, but that will attract a penalty. So just keep an eye on that. The teams have to be as well drilled as they can. They don't want to lose any time, but as soon as you go under, it wasn't worth the risk.
Oh, and the penalty is harsh. It's a drive-through penalty, which again, with the length of this pit lane here, is incredibly punitive. It's a little different than how things are done in the US GT4 Championship, where you have a little wiggle room to play with. If you're under a second under there, then it's a time penalty multiplied by the fraction of a second that you were under, but not here. And again, with the nature of this track, the nature of this pit lane, that makes this a calculation you need to get right when you're releasing the car.
Yeah, hugely so. There's obviously all the driver aids we talk about, but the teams do use GPS systems, like I've said before, to help with that. And there's normally like 2 or 3 methods as a foolproof there, as we see Charlie Hart really pushing on. And that's what he needs to do. This is what we saw Piana do well in race 1 yesterday. He boxed early and got more laps to get the undercut. The elite car servicing the 81 car. That isn't an elite car. That is a RAFA Racing car that was written off, and they've used an elite car, and the elite team are now running it to add to some confusion.
Yep, but good to see the two McLaren teams helping one another out. You never know when the shoe can be on the other foot. So as much as they are competitors on the track, there is a level of camaraderie there. This will be interesting to see how the two strategies start to blend together. BMW releases off the pit speed limiter, now Ford does, and here comes that McLaren already at speed, roaring up the hill. It will easily clear the Mustang. Where does it cycle in behind the BMW, however?
I like that from Hart. He's just done a track limit. What's the point in doing a track limit by an inch? Do it by whatever your metrics are in the States, but do it by 10 meters, and you carry that speed all the way down the straight. That's a smart move, underhand, but I like it.
A foot, a yard, take your pick. I think we stole them from you, actually, but you've left us to take the imperial measurement system, and now I have to try and make sense of it when I come over here. Here we go, the next wave of pit callers coming in. This crucial moment, and it includes the race leader, Piana, Cresswell, Signoretti, Duran, Saylor, Kronberg, Del Sart all in. It looks like Consani has stayed out, so they'll run that to the last possible moment in this strategy. And with that does come some risk, however. If you have an incident or whatever on track, you have a spin or something causes you to have to slow down and you miss that pit window, that is on you. That's the risk that you take.
Yep, exactly that. There's a few rolling the dice on that one, but you might as well, when you're outside the top three, in my opinion, go for it. And this is Charlie Hart now on the aggressive. This is for potential race lead if the undercut pit stop one strategy works out. So that's why he's so aggressive on the rear of this BMW in front of him.
Van der Ende in the BMW, heard from him during that red flag earlier. He said he's been coming to this place for 20 years, so he's got plenty of track knowledge, and he'll need all of it as he comes under attack. Meanwhile, just now, Cresswell has arrived in his pit box.
Yeah, he's handing over there. We're going to get a great visual because they're right at the end of pit exit. So as we look down from Eau Rouge, we will see that Van der Ende car at the moment in front of the Charlie Hart McLaren, and that will be for the race lead as Rastican gets ready to go. Quick tyre pressures, like you said, you're allowed to bleed down. There's a minimum tyre pressure, 1.4 bar, but the teams won't be getting anywhere near that now. There's some serious temperature in, but this is tight, isn't it? Remember that minimum pit stop time. You can't do it as quickly as you want. That McLaren could be crossing the pit lane in the next 6 to 7 seconds, though, so should be released, but the Borsen car is still in front, so this is going to be the race lead, and it looks like the overcut strategy is the one, because Van der Ende fighting with Hart, they're going to be 7 or 8 seconds behind by the time everyone's up to speed.
Well, and the fact these two are scrapping amongst themselves, that's not helping them at all in terms of trying to run down the leaders of the race, which should cycle back to this pairing here. BMW still ahead of McLaren after the pit stops with a change of drivers in both. We'll keep a close eye on this as they run to the end of the Kemmel Straight. Berke Besler trying to hang on to that spot. Here we go, Hard around the outside now, gets to the flank once again of Van der Ende. He has the preferred lane, but the McLaren is able to get to the what becomes the inside line, then cuts the corner, wisely gives that spot back.
Knew that one wouldn't stick in the steward's room, so he lifted out of it. He will be careful though, because that Toyota and Mustang behind have only just left the pits as well. So they will be pushing on hard with new drivers. It's the #1 Mustang going well. We go back on board. It's just listening in. Love this engine and all the noise from the gearbox. Oh, fired a load of gravel into the rad over the windscreen as we dive downhill. It's a small break here into Paul. This is the corner I was talking to you, Ryan, about, that my favourite. 2 corners for the price of 1. There's our first apex. Full throttle now, but the car wants to exit stage right, and then you get a small break as you come under the gantry here. Hit the brakes into Piff Paff. Looked like Hart there in front was trying to go round the outside of Van der Ende. They're still battling. This is going to become a 5-car battle at the moment, and we're at one bookend of it.
Consani in the pits from the lead. They were able to make it in well within that window, so that's the good news there. That was the car that has been on the move since the restart. Didn't have track position, so elected to gamble a bit with the overcut strategy, and we'll see how it plays out. They were, I think, 5th place overall at the beginning of this pit sequence.
Yeah, I'm getting a penalty for pit lane speed in the car 317. Haven't seen anything for that. Abanya, the car 12th overall at the moment. His pit stop was too short on my calculation, as we see this Audi getting back up to speed shortly once it gets to the end of the line. And it looks like the McLaren of Rattigan now slightly faster than the BMW, now being driven by Bessler. Let's see where they get alongside this. They're only at the apex of La Source. I think Cassani doing that extra lap has really pumped one in there. His in lap, sometimes hard to calculate, but the teams know it, and it is swung the other way. It shows you how slow 50 kilometers an hour is versus 240.
Well, that call wasn't enough to vault them into the lead, but remember, they were about 5th at the beginning of this cycle, so it would appear that Cassani staying out as long as he did at least gives him a chance to fight for a step on the podium. This is the battle that we need to watch here. BMW Van der Ende coming in, as is Hart. These two still scrapping it out. They've done each other no favors when it comes to trying to combat the overcut.
Hart's going to be frustrated. We heard on the grid, didn't we, from Rattigan, the McLaren's got no straight line speed, so faster in the corner, that's great. Very hard to overtake in a corner. At the end of the straight is where it's easy, and that's where the BMW seems to have the surplus of pace at the moment.
Closing in on that Audi, just out of the pits for the final step of the podium. Good battle, breaking out a little bit farther behind as well. Here's the leader in Pro-Am. What a bounce back it would be for the Lotus PB Racing team after the disappointment. Can't even call it a mechanical issue, really. Electrical issue, electrical fire that knocked them out of the race yesterday.
Yeah, tough for that Lotus team as well, but at the moment, all going well. We've got all the class leaders together, haven't we? There's second place, the Toyota. There's third place, the Porsche of Hendrik Still now. He led the race yesterday, didn't he? He was very quick, third on the grid yesterday, so expect him to be quick, but that Lotus can be seriously quick over a single lap as well. So this battle's going to rage on with less than 8 minutes remaining now.
Happens fast when you have a lengthy red flag. Not much time to go racing, but once we got going, it's been good. His Hart lets that car drift out to the very edge of the track, puts the left sides into the gravel, kicks up some dust as he sets off in pursuit once again of Van der Ende, who is relying on all that experience that he has here at this racetrack.
Yeah, the first two really have checked out, haven't they? It's going to be a 6-7 second gap by the time we get the updated timings after everyone has finally done their pit stops there. And both look like they're catching the Audi though, so the Audi getting caught by the BMW, which is being is holding up the McLaren. The Toyota's caught. The Mustang struggling to stay with that Toyota at the moment of David, I think, though.
And that's Eric Evans, the young American British GT4 champ, doing his best to hang in that fight, but currently down in the 7th spot. Wow, someone just went wide up and over the curb. Battle further back in the pack. This is our AM class leader, very much in the mix of this contretemps. Not where you want to be, especially if you're mixing it up with other cars, although I'm not sure that is the case. Yeah, we've got a bunch of AM class cars, front runners, all mixed in together, with Niskanen as the one interloper in the Mercedes from a different class.
Yeah, it's a bit of a copy and paste battle, isn't it? A BMW holding up a McLaren, but the McLaren no way round, and this is for first place. Remember, there's no love lost between these two. Contact yesterday, robbing both of them of potentially a race win, so they will both want to be on the top step of this podium as the clock ticks away seriously quickly, it feels like, doesn't it?
Yeah, that does. This race, once it got going, has flown by. We've had that pit window right in the middle as Bessler drops a wheel there on exit, kicks up some dust. Could that be a sign of some emerging vulnerability? We shall see. Right now, Rattigan just doing his best to hang tight, hang in that slipstream, and look for a moment of weakness that he can exploit, but it hasn't appeared yet.
No, it hasn't. Track limit warning-wise, it's 2 for the BMW, 3 for this yellow Elite McLaren. Once they get to the 6th, they will attract a penalty. So they're okay at the moment, but this is where the top drivers know how many they've used, and they don't use them up for no reason. They're like, oh, that's at the top of a Lecom. That car's coming quickly and sideways. Reminds me of that Lewis Hamilton off when he went off in his McLaren F1. Wasn't a huge impact with the barrier that we saw. It's going to be a local yellow for now, but let's keep an eye out for a full course yellow. Again, the drivers will be warned of that, and they will be maybe pushing even harder because they will be worried if it goes to full course yellow, that will be the end of the race.
Yep, there you see it. Sector 2, for now at least, covered by the local yellow. That will take away a potential passing zone there as well, if that's still covered by the local yellow at the top of the hill into the Kemmel Straight. For now, coming around to complete another lap, it's Berke Bessler now in the car Gabriele Piana started with some unfinished business, although I suppose both of these cars and their drivers could say the same thing. Both contended for a win yesterday. Neither were in a position at the end of 60 minutes to get one. Bessler, though, leads by half a second. Then you've got to drop back quite a ways to find Lariche now, who's taken over that third-place Audi and has fallen into the clutches of Van der Ende now.
Yeah, it's the 88 car that was off at the top of Lecombe, the Mercedes of Sorokin that he shares with American Keith Gatehouse, lovely American guy, and the car's still there at the moment. Yellow flag out, but still just this local, so they won't be overtake into this next section. You can see quite a lot of debris as well. Was it maybe a punch or a blowout or contact? But there is definitely a lot of detritus over the track there.
Bits of carbon fiber, bits of gravel, all mixed together there, and not super far off of the racing line either. That makes that a dangerous proposition to try and make a pass if you go offline there. There's a lunge just a moment ago. Awfully close, but again, McLaren denied by BMW.
Yep, exactly that. It's a common theme, isn't it? And I know the frustration of driving a McLaren. It's very quick in the corner, but not quick at the straight. And it's the complete opposite of what you want as a driver. But that Audi getting caught, again, I think that's got the straight line performance over the BMW. So at the moment, I think it's hard for all of these cars to overtake. So what do? They flash their headlights. It's the only thing you can do in your hour of need.
As of yet, it's yet to yield any results, but that hasn't stopped anyone since the headlight flasher was first brought into play. This is what happened. That explains all the debris, and then this is the bit that we caught, just the car flashing through, debris flashing up into the screen as well. And the Mercedes definitely got the worst end of that coming together. And then this is down at the chicane. 427 spinning up the rear wheels and going around.
Yeah, that damage you can see is from getting hit at the top of Lecombe. So he's had a very eventful lap, that 427 Audi, and just looked like the Mercedes of Sorokin was just unexpecting the braking point to be that early, and he flew off at a rate of knots. So that car is out of the race, and I expect the same for that Audi 427.
Yellow flag cleared from the middle sector. That's great news. We can run hopefully unobstructed here for the final 2.5 minutes. Bessler's lead has grown. It's now up to 0.8 of a second over Radigan. Lariche has drifted back into this battle, at least it looked that way. Now he finds himself with a little breathing room, and it's Van der Ende again under attack from Hart.
Final lap, I thought it would be race control pop up. They crossed the line with 5 seconds too short to squeeze another one after that. So all the drivers again will be told from the teams, this is your last lap, this is your last chance. You're only seeing each corner once more. Was that contact there as the Mustang in front did seem to get on the throttle. The #1 car here trying to out-drag the 61 Mustang. They could be completely different setups run by different cars, but they're running at a similar pace. Let's listen to a lift, slight lift as they go through the right, then through the left, and now down the Kemmel Straight. Big slipstream being afforded, but the Mustang in front pulling away from the Academy Motorsport.
Yeah, this is bragging rights from the Ford camp up for grabs. Battle for 7th and 8th overall. Evans has the spot, Van Springle trying to take it away. Here on the final lap, again, you see these two leaders pushing their cars to the absolute limit. Radigan kicking up a little bit of dust, dropping back over the last few laps, but trying to build up a little bit of momentum here to make one last lunge here on the final lap.
Doesn't look like he's got it to me personally, not to be negative and defeatist, but he did his best sector 1 on that last lap and actually gained 3.5 tenths on Bessler, but then threw it away with that mistake on the exit of Lecombe. Here we go to the Audi BMW battle, swerving, trying to catch the eye, distract the car in front. Which way is this going to finish? How desperate are they to try and get the last podium position away from Benjamin Lariche?
Lariche has it again. Clever pit work by that team. They went with the ultimate in the overcut strategy, going one lap longer than just about anybody else. Came very close to running afoul of the pit window, but got in the nick of time, and that helped to vault them up into this position, thanks in large part to some fantastic laps in clean air by Consani. Lariche now trying to finish it off, but he's got company in the form of Van der Ende in the BMW.
Yeah, we saw Consani in the pits there looking tentative and nervous because the gap with that BMW is small. This is the best chance Van der Ende has got. He's going to be picking up the slipstream as we see the leaders come into the last break zone.
Okay, Besler has been able to pull an advantage here on the final lap. Radigan in the pole-sitting car hasn't had anything to challenge the Turkish driver as the checkered flag waves. A yellow in the middle sector, but at the front of the field, it's Berke Besler bringing it home in the car started by Gabriele Piana. He takes the victory here in race 2 after the win eluded him a day ago. Radigan holds on for second, and Lariche will secure the final step of the overall podium as well. Battle still coming to the line, and we look for the winner in Pro-Am. And how about the Lotus team with Diaste taking it across the line to secure the victory after heartbreak yesterday?
Zeros to heroes for the Lotus. Good job there as we pick up the AM class leader, the 30 car, dominant in this race. 6 positions clear of its next rival overall. Great job by the 30 Porsche team.
Yeah, that's right. That's Blickler at the command right now, running a very stout 23rd overall, comes across the line to take the victory. Porsche in the M class in trouble for the 310, a silver class BMW entry. Sergio Nicolai in the gravel trap here on the final lap. Not what you want to see, and this is, I suspect, how it happened. Battling for position here in the minor places. 17th and 18th, 16th as well up for grabs. And boy, used up that Toyota Supra as well, didn't he?
Yeah, we saw that battle raging 5 laps ago. I was amazed they were still on track when we cut to it then, but outbroke himself there in the BMW, and I'd imagine broke something on the front suspension, hence why he couldn't get out, and quite rudely assaulted that Toyota. No fault of the Toyota, in my opinion. Just too late on the brakes, and congratulations to our race winners there. What a bunch of characters they all are everywhere they go. Richard Bradley there on the left, former British driver, winner of the Le Mans 24 Hours too.
A fantastic effort from the team. Great bounce back as well for Besler and Piana, what might have been yesterday. Gabriele was pretty open and frank, talking about the penalty that was assessed, a 10-second penalty that cost them the win that they had on the road. He said he didn't agree with it, but he was going to have to deal with it, and they dealt with it today.
Yep, exactly. It's another 0 to hero, and it's Turkish delight for that team.
And fantastic as well, the move that he put on the leading McLaren to take the advantage. Great story here as well with Nasca and Diaste to take the victory for the Lotus. We heard Nasca talking about just how impressed he was with his experienced co-driver, the pace he was able to get out of that car, especially in the wet. And it should be said that the qualifying exploits of that group in the wet really set the table for this run here today. Congratulations to them. Big victory, not just for them, but as well for everyone at Lotus. A solid run, well inside the top 10 overall, too, for the winners in their class. Well, here's a look at the way the results shape up. Second race of the weekend, and with this, the season has reached its halfway point. Berke Besler, Gabriele Piana, winners by half a second over Radigan and Cresswell. Lariche and Consani in the 3rd spot, completing the silver class podium. Winners in Pro-Am, as mentioned. Congratulations, Lotus PB Racing, Diaste and Nasca, 9th overall, ahead of Scaris and Homeland, Still and Belting in the 11th overall finishing position, completing the podium in the Pro-Am Cup. Got to go down to 23rd overall, but it was a compelling and dominant victory in the class for Blickler and Kronberg. A couple of German drivers there in the German machinery with a substantial amount of time in hand over their nearest challengers in the AM class, right around 20 seconds all told, and several cars from other classes mixed in ahead as well. Further down the order, you run into those that have had some trouble here today. 6 cars in total eliminated on the spot in an incident up the hill for the first time on the first lap of the race. Several others ended up dropping out as well due to damage sustained in that accident that led to a lengthy red flag of nearly 45 minutes. Ultimately, a little bit of time was added back to the clock, and once we got to our green flag, as has been a trend here this weekend, the racing in GT4 European Series has been up to par. Just had to wait for it.
Exactly. Good things come to those who wait. Talking of which, look at the celebrations there of Diasse getting out. He was over the moon as well. He runs that car. It's his team as well. So double, well, probably triple, an infinite amount more stress when you're a driver and a team owner running that Lotus.
Yeah, you love to see it. That tells you what it means to get a win and to do it here at this track, and as well on the precipice of the big show coming up later today with a big crowd on hand to take it all in as well. This is a big moment for some of these teams and drivers.
Yeah, the crowd building really well. We had just under 100,000 here race day last year, and it feels busier than that already this year. So it's great for these support races to be part of such a big weekend.
And happy as well we could get this race in with no weather creeping in to the conversation. We'll see if that holds for the 24 hours or not, but plenty to celebrate for the fans that are here already, and they've been rewarded with a great sprint to the checkered flag here at Spa for race 2 of the weekend, GT4 European Series, powered by the RAFA Racing Club. Well, 2 races of what might have been for the car that started on pole here today. Radican brought the car home, did his best to take the fight to Bessler, but really that race was won for Borussia Automotive in the opening stint. The move that Piana put on the restart to take the lead, that ultimately proved decisive.
Yeah, you can see Piana there leaning in. Great job by him. Unlucky yesterday, I think, is how I'd summarize it, and a nice embrace between the two.
That's exactly what you wanted.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we did a really amazing job, and I have to say thank you very much to Alberto, because he did something of unbelievable in this track. It was very, very difficult all the weekend. Was really, really difficult, rain and dry, and he avoided a big crash in race 1, and then he did a very great first stint. Then I got in the car, and yeah, we were in a good position, but I was faster than the 2 Ford in front of me, the Mustang in front of him, but they have an incredible engine. I couldn't overtake them, and I had the Toyota in class with us that was in the back. In the first moment, I got 2.5 seconds of advantage, but then the Mustang slowed down me a lot, and he ride back, and they said, no, I had to win it.
Alberto, how special is this win?
Wow, amazing, really incredible. I mean, I did what I could. I still didn't understand how to be fast in the Eau Rouge, so I was struggling. It was the only corner where I was struggling, and the Silvers were overtaking me there. And I said, okay, go. I just need to defend the leadership in Pro-Am. And then when I gave the car back to Stefano, we did the perfect pit stop. Perfect. We fixed everything, and grande. He did an incredible stint. I mean, he was flying, literally flying. That he did the great job. I just did what I had to do. He did more than he could.
Great job, boys. Well done.
And clear camaraderie between that two as well. That's fantastic. And we look at the adjusted points now. After the...
Yes, that's pretty much. I just do what I can. I go flat out, and I attack always, and it doesn't matter to me. Like yesterday was really disappointed. I really am not happy with the decision that was made, but today we fought back, and actually today was the proof that if he leaves me space, there is no contact. So I think maybe the race director can have a look at today and tomorrow and yesterday and see where the difference lies. But all good, we won. I don't care.
Dean, beautifully done. And you, I tell you what, that stint was world class. How special is it to win here in Spa?
Yeah, it was really good. Like this was the race that I always want to win. Yeah. So finally I made it. Thanks to Gabi and to my team and for BMW and Motorsports to make this happen. Yeah, like Gabi said, like yesterday it was a bit disappointing for us. We didn't like the decision, but at the end of the day, we proved that we were quick to win the race today. But we are going to fight as hard as possible as we did yesterday in the rest of the season.
Brilliantly done. What a statement. Enjoy that podium.
Yeah, they could say that they don't care about that penalty yesterday, but the fact that it came up unprompted in both interviews tells a different tale.
For something he didn't care about, he talked about it passionately for quite a while, didn't he? But he left us on that, I don't care. Look at the deflection, that rear tyre. You can see the energy involved. I love these slow-mos wherever we get to watch them.
Got another winning pairing to hear from now. It's the M class with Alex.
Max, Daniel, this is turning out to be a very, very good pairing.
Yeah, definitely. It was a pretty good weekend, and today we had a great starting position, P17 overall. I mean, it would be great if the race was a bit longer with the red flag, but still, I had fun out there, and I think Daniel brought it home. And now we close the gap in the championship, so it's...
That was a very calm, very neat drive.
Yeah, thank you. It's I took it over from Max. I mean, today was even more chaos than yesterday. Who couldn't expect that, but yeah, actually it works well. I mean, me in my first GT4 season, I'm getting into the rhythm. So also in the classement, we're even now again. That was what we wanted. So perfect weekend for us, and we're looking forward to Misano now.
Nailing it. What a statement. Well done, lads.
Plenty for them to celebrate. Coming together at the right time at the midway point in the championship. A look back on a frantic start here to race number 2 of the weekend. It was McLaren on pole, and it would stay that way actually for the better part of an hour. Unfortunately, that was because we were under red flag conditions. Side-by-side battles coming up the hill through Radillon for the first time, and it was contact that sent Paul Petit into a spin. Back out onto the middle of the track. The first batch of cars able to avoid, but not the next. And unfortunately, that sent Paul for a wild ride. The crowd left to react. The good news, after 6 cars were eliminated in that accident, 5 drivers checked and released, 1 taken for precautionary checks with the medical staff. After a lengthy delay, we did get the race resumed, and crucially, the pit stop window moved back a couple of laps to make sure both drivers got a chance at some green flag running. Great work by the Grosjean automotive team, which took the lead on track with Gabriele Piana to retain the lead. A couple of teams electing to go with an overcut strategy that was particularly useful for the Audi that finished in the 3rd spot in the race. Contact fighting for some of the lower positions, eliminated car 88 with just a handful of laps to go, and a spin as well for car 427 out of the chicane. Plenty of battles in the pack. This was coming to the checkered flag. Final lap here, coming together between BMW and Supra. Neither would get the result that they were looking for there. At the front of the field, though, it was all BMW. Berke Bessler, Gabriele Piana atoning for miscues yesterday, taking the overall win in race 2 of the weekend.